You can react, it's okay. Welcome to the second annual Decatur Tiny House Festival. What's funny is I'm really comfortable up here, so you're gonna get a show. No, I'm kidding. So, ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Will Johnston, the Executive Director of Microlife Institute and Tiny House Atlanta. Thank you so much for being here because we're here to make change. And I know some people are saying, oh my gosh, tiny houses, I love them, I see them on TV. But there's so much more to this. There's so much more to what we do as the Microlife Institute and Tiny House Atlanta. This year alone, we have helped the City of Atlanta change legislation to allow for accessory dwelling units to be built in people's backyards. You can clap, yes. We've worked with the state of Georgia. Ted Multides from the Department of Community Affairs is here. We worked with them to help write a tiny house appendix for the state of Georgia, which it looks like we have our final approval on November 15th. And what that will do will allow people, will approve the appendix, the tiny house appendix, for 400 square feet on foundation to be allowed to be built in the state of Georgia. Now, there's still work to be done. That's why we exist. So when we get the tiny house appendix approved, now we've got to go talk to all the counties, 159 of our best friends. And then once we talk to 159 of our best friends, my phone's ringing. 159 counties of our best friends, then we get to talk to all the cities. So again, it's a waterfall effect of how people adopt and embrace what we are doing at the Microlife Institute. We educate, we advocate, we talk tiny, we talk micro, we talk with what's around you. We talk wheel-based, we talk foundation-based. It's the idea of sustainable living, intentional living, getting back to the roots of being a part of this community, being a part of what we want to be instead of what we're forced to be. So tonight, thank you so much for being here. And I definitely want to say thank you to our sponsors, Mitsubishi. Thank you so much. Clap. Yes, clap. I can tell where the Mitsubishi people are sitting, right over there. Love you guys. Also, Alternative Apparel, where are you? So we have not sported well, oh yes, Shirley, you want to be Vanna? You want to walk? Take off your fanny pack, take off your bag. So this is the no, Shirley, more. So we staged Shirley. Come on up, Shirley. Come on. No, I'm making you do this. So we went with the minimalism effect. So it's less space, more life. And again, thank you to Alternative Apparel for being our official t-shirt sponsor. Thank you, Shirley, being Vanna. That was amazing. You're hired. And also, I have to give a shout out to the City of Atlanta. If you haven't visited our tiny house office, they have helped support that. So thank you to the City of Atlanta because they have been amazing to be able to make that happen. So Resilient Atlanta, thank you for being here. Mario, I'm looking at you. He's also on our board, so I gotta give him a shout out as well. As well as Hannah Solar, thank you for being here. Hannah Solar, where are you? Ooh, awkward. They're amazing. You should call them because if you want solar, Hannah Solar is the way to be. Also, thank you to Creative Loafing, as well as the Arts Voice. Where's Gail? Gail, you're here. All right, thank you. AM 1690. Thank you so much for being here. Did I say that wrong?
Arts ATL.
Arts ATL. Thank you. I didn't prepare my speech. I've been out here all day, and you can tell I'm probably burnt. So again, I don't want to. I'm going to keep thanking people, and I'm trying to look at. Oh, well, duh. The city of Decatur. So how all this came about, I'm sitting in a conference room at the City Hall of Decatur, and we're just talking tiny. We're just talking about tiny houses, what you could do where, and suddenly they look at me like, well, you know you can build a tiny house in the city of Decatur. And I just went, what? And they're like, well, how do we tell people about this? And they're like, I know, let's have a festival. What else does Decatur do? Festivals. So anyways, second annual Decatur Tiny House Festival. So I'm sure I have more sponsors to thank, but I'm going to bring up Mayor Garrett to say a few words. So thank you so much, Mayor Garrett. Come on up.
I will add my thanks to Shirley Bayless. You can't have Shirley. She works for the City of Decatur. She is our special events coordinator, and she does an amazing job with all of the festivals and events that we have in the City of Decatur. And last year was our first year. This is our second year with the Tiny House Festival, and it was an amazing success last year, and we were thrilled to be able to host it again this year. We welcome you. We're glad you're here. The weather is going to be so nice this weekend. I can't think of a better weekend to come out and enjoy the Tiny House Festival. I hope you'll also come to some of the general sessions. And what would a Tiny House Festival be without tiny talks, of course, across the street at our Beacon Municipal Complex. So we are glad you're here. The houses are amazing. I am so thrilled that we are hosting this event in Decatur, and we welcome you, and we are glad you're here and supporting the Tiny House Festival. And indeed, we do allow tiny houses in the city of Decatur. Come find out more about that tomorrow at some of the general sessions, and about downsizing and sort of decluttering your life. And so again, welcome on behalf of the City of Decatur. And next, I'd like to introduce Mark Kuntz from Mitsubishi, who is also going to bring a word of welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mary Garrett. It's a pleasure to be here. Mitsubishi is thrilled to be a sponsor of the Tiny House Festival. We make tiny air conditioners, also known as mini splits. They're in several of the tiny houses around. We brought these to America 30 years ago, and they were kind of considered toy air conditioners at the time that we brought them because they're so small. But a funny thing has happened since then. Both tiny house has emerged on the scene, and high performance houses, where the envelope is super tight, the loads are super low, have brought the loads of houses down to just the perfect fit for the Mitsubishi mini split. One of the fundamental underlying values of tiny home or high performance home is the fact that it brings both private benefits and public benefits simultaneously. It's a no compromise situation. You think of the private benefits, you've got a customized house to just the right size, space, your personal preferences. It's efficient, it's space conserving, it's low maintenance, less house, more life, I think, something like that. And on the public side, you've got a conservation of resource, conservation of space, minimization of waste, minimization of energy. It all adds up to public and private benefits. It's no compromise. I was in Japan earlier this year, and I saw what I think may be a vision for the next stage of that, which I just wanted to share with you briefly. I was in a super high performance house in Tokyo, state-of-the-art envelope, state-of-the-art appliances, everything very, very energy efficient, electric car in the garage, photovoltaic panels on the roof, everything net zero energy. And as they took us to the home, they took us to a red button on the wall, and they said, "This is our Fukushima button." I said, what does that mean? Does anybody remember Fukushima? The worst earthquake ever in Japan, 2011, tsunami, wiped out the Fukushima power station, and vast areas of Japan lost electricity in addition to the tremendous devastation of the tsunami, and it was a huge recovery process. Well, the Fukushima button on this super performance house simulated the same effect as a widespread power outage. They said, here we go, we're pushing Fukushima, and they hit the button, instantly everything went dark. But a few seconds later, everything came right back online exactly as it was previously. And what was happening is the electric car in the garage was now backfeeding the home with energy stored in its battery also supplemented by the photovoltaics on the roof. What they told me is, in the case of a zero solar day, this system could operate the entire house for 3 days. But with the addition of photovoltaics, it could operate in this mode literally indefinitely. And the vision for this is the government of Japan wants to provide subsidies for homeowners willing to establish this type of arrangement. And in the case of a national emergency, folks that would be willing to let others from the community use their refrigeration, their heating or cooling, storing medicines, key foodstuffs, would be able to get this subsidy. And the vision is to have homes like this dotted throughout the country and providing a refuge or a sanctuary in the case of national emergency. And to me, that's the ultimate in personal benefit on a daily, ongoing basis, societal benefit for the society at large. And now we're not just talking about conserving resources and saving space, but potentially even saving lives. I think it's a beautiful thing. I see around here, I see solar systems, I see super efficient houses. I bet a lot of people around here drive electric cars. The elements are there, and it would be a great vision to see how this could come together in the US as well. So that's my vision, that's part of our excitement. I invite you to enjoy the Mitsubishi Comfort in several of the houses around here, including this beautiful, incredible tiny house here to start. Enjoy the festival, enjoy this evening. Thanks very much.
Before I bring up our keynote, I just want to give a humble thank you to the most amazing, awesome partner in the world. Where is Kim? Kim Buchero. If you don't know, like, it's not me. Kim is amazing. Kim has helped grow this organization. Kim met me at one of our Tiny House Atlanta meetups about 2.5 years ago, and she has literally helped me grow and be a better leader, a better person, and helped grow this organization to become the Microlife Institute. So please thank Kim Buchero. Also, I definitely want to give a huge thank you to Where Are My Tiny House Atlanta volunteers. They are amazing. You guys have helped. We have over 250 volunteers just to make this weekend happen. So it just means so much to me for you all to A, believe in this mission, and B, believe in Kim and me to help lead this and bring this into another level to our municipalities, our governments, and just day-to-day life. So, which brings me to another person that has inspired me, and this gentleman has really took it upon himself to say, you know what, I want to create something. I want to do something different. I don't want to follow that path. I don't want to go in that direction. And he is also a Decaturite. He has done amazing work, and he has built something very, very cool in South Fulton, and that's Stephen Nygren. And he is the founder and executive director, or founder and president and CEO of Serenbe. And I thought the perfect person to talk to you all tonight about housing innovation and why we do. I went dark. Oh, there we go. Hello. And it's just that idea of housing innovation. What do we need? What do we want? And having Stephen come talk to you all and be here tonight is a great honor for me, and I just thank you so much. So Stephen Nygren, please come join me on stage and share us some knowledge.
Thank you, Will. Don't you love that energy? Boy, having to follow Will up here. Will's a good example of what we need a lot more of. Traveling around, coming back home, and asking the question, why? Why are we so burdened? And most people say they want more life. And I think the tagline is, less space, more life. has captured what a lot of us are struggling with, is why we feel so burdened with all of our toys. And so, Will, thank you for what you've done. And it's incredible when you start asking why, and suddenly a movement. And I bet you never guessed that you would have this kind of following with your talks, and now this group. And you're going to have how many people here this weekend? 10,000 people. It's amazing what you can do when you touch a nerve and start asking why and seeing what you can do. And I think a lot of us agree that there's a lot of things not working today. And there's too many people that think we have to sit there, or that there's somebody over there that should be changing it. And that certainly happens. And how have we gotten into this rut? We've certainly looked at it, and after World War II, we could do anything we wanted. We needed housing. The affordable land was outside our urban cities. And a lot of the houses we were building back there after World War II weren't a lot bigger than these tiny houses. But now, what's happened is our measurement of success in America, and probably around the world, is let's have a bigger piece of property. And let's put a bigger house on that piece of property. And somehow the idea of success hasn't been less space, more life. It's been how big can we make our space? And so we've created these compounds where we want all of our own toys. So success is if you can put your own pool in, you can put your own golf court or tennis court, your own movie theater, your own cappuccino machine, and then pretty soon we have so many toys we're worried about somebody taking them, and so we put a fence around it. And then the developers have decided they don't have to put walks in because nobody's going from neighbor to neighbor, because they all have all their own toys, their own playgrounds for their kids. And then we wonder why people go into those 4 rooms that are huge, because the houses have gotten bigger. Don't you know that the builders, how many builders are here, have figured out the only way to talk to the banking community is dollars per square foot. I don't allow our builders to talk about dollars per square foot, because that's gotten us in trouble. Because what you can do is just add a lot of sheetrock between the glass, and it doesn't cost much. And so it reduces your dollars per square foot. But the homeowner has all the expenses of maintaining and the energy bills for that big space that isn't necessarily that much greater, it's just bigger. And what's one of the biggest things affecting America today? It's depression. Antidepressants have increased 4-fold each decade for the past 2 decades. Something is desperately wrong. Now, when I was a young guy like Will, I had blonde hair. I thought I could change the world. And by the way, Will, it's all in the words. Being a fair guy, you get sunburned a lot. You never say you're burnt, you say you're hot. So it's all in the words, and it's how we look at the world that is really key. And I was a restaurant guy. I saw many old friends here tonight that ate in the peasant restaurants, the mixed restaurants. Lynn Minnie, she remembers when we brought the first restaurant on Town Square in Decatur. That was when there were empty storefronts in Decatur. People don't remember that. We were the first liquor license in Roswell. We were the first restaurants in Midtown in years. Came into those places because we saw the magic of these walkable communities that people had run away from in the 60s and the 70s. Now, I wish I could say that I really saw the magic, but those were places where I could afford the rent initially and then to buy those buildings. And this was before we realized the value of walkable communities and making things different. And so we led an effort, as I look back, we were placemakers back in the 70s and 80s and 90s when I was opening restaurants. And a lot of Atlantans do not realize how many places we were in the various old towns around Atlanta, but also we were part of the restoration of Pennsylvania Avenue, not many feet from the Capitol. Philadelphia, Minneapolis, various cities, we went into the old neighborhoods, we're walking. So we were doing great things. We were creating jobs in the inner cities, we were doing a lot of things. But being someone, kind of like Will back when I was young, I cared. We wanted to make a difference. And while we were making that 1 or 2% difference, I was frustrated because I had a great Rolodex. Being that close to our U.S. Capitol, we were within what was called the buzzer district back then. And they could drink and eat, and still when they got that buzzer, they could get to their desk, and they just had to remember whether they were pushing a green button, a red button, or a yellow button. And so we helped some of those senators and congressmen get back to their desks, get here. And so I had a great Rolodex. But I realized we couldn't make much difference, and it was kind of frustrating. And about in the 90s, I had 3 small children. I was serving on a lot of boards, supporting a lot of politicians, not many of them won election. And I decided that why was I spending all this energy away from home when the most important thing was to put my arms around my family where I could change it. And so I sold the restaurant, we sold the big house in Ansley Park that had all those toys I referred to, and we retreated to our weekend farm southwest of Atlanta, just 35-40 minutes from here, that we called Serenbe. And life was great. I was one of those lucky people that I was able to spend that time as the kids were young. And then in my 7th year of retirement, I had a rude awakening when the bulldozers started bulldozing and leveling the forest next to us, which we did not own. And that was my wake-up call, because when I stopped the bulldozer, he said, I asked him what he was doing, and his reply was, we've just been hired to clear the trees. I guess they're putting houses here, that's what always happens. And so with that panic, I tried to get a hold of the retired doctor in Fayette who owned it. And it turns out he was in Europe and I couldn't reach him. And as I called other landowners, I was a panic on what I was going to do to protect us. And of course, at the end of the 5 weeks when he returned, I already had another 600 acres to add to my 300 acres under contract. It was that I'm going to save my backyard by buying it. And I realized 1,000 acres wasn't large enough to protect us from the urban sprawl that was going to ease. And southwest of Atlanta is one of the last corridors that has not been disturbed. And so we started looking at what to do, and we looked at models that we could put on our 1,000 acres. And as we looked around the United States, we found a lot of models actually accelerated the disturbance of the area. If you look at Seaside or Prairie Crossing or Davis out in California. And so we came back and realized we weren't thinking large enough. And so we started looking at the research of what we could do. And we found the only place who had sort of found a perfect model was the countryside of England. Because after World War II, because the island was only so big, they couldn't indulge in the urban sprawl if they were going to have any forest or land for agriculture. And so they put good land laws, and they were able to accommodate all the housing, high-density housing, in their hamlets, villages, and towns. And so they were accommodating more people per square mile or per hectare than we were in America per square mile, and still saving a majority of the land. So we decided that was the perfect model, and we spent the next 2 years and brought over 500 landowners together for revolutionary zoning changes in 40 acres of South Fulton. Today, the Chattahoochee Hill Country is 65,000 acres. To give you a perspective, that's half of the inside of the perimeter of Atlanta that's still rolling hills with forest and pastures, and Serenbe is the first development under these new guidelines where 70% of the land has to be protected through transfer development rights. In 2003, working with the University of Georgia and Texas A&M, we modeled legislation so that beginning in 2003, and thanks to some of the state senators, I think someone was here that was in the Senate then, we created the transfer development rights for the state of Georgia. You have to have local enabling legislation, and just recently people are starting to understand the brilliance of transfer development rights as a preservation tool that is connected directly to development. So all of our preservation groups don't have to run out and raise money to try to get a hold of the development community. They're taught together. And so we broke ground on Serenbe as a model of how it could be different. And one of the key things is that we did, that research is now showing, is the counter to the depression is connection to nature. And if you know about Richard Louve's work, Last Child in the Woods, it really talks about our children's brains are not developing correctly or as they used to, a little thing about common sense they're missing, because they're being raised in such structured, built, and social environments. And so connecting to nature is critical. The other key thing is connecting to one another, and the research is all showing that today. Yet we've been building places for people to exist that removes us from both nature and removes us from one another. So at Serenbe, almost every home backs up to nature. So it's for the split personality in all of us. If you go out the front door, you better be ready to engage with your neighbor. But if you feel like being meditative, go out your back door and you can take a walk in nature. And it's amazing, no matter how bad the news is, or personal tragedies you hear about, a walk in nature, 10 minutes sitting by a stream, can really set the reset button like nothing else. And now we've created a place where arts are important, and we're nationally recognized in the arts. Our charter school has been nationally recognized by CBS Sunday Morning, not just because we've raised the test scores, but because we're showing the health of the children. Average missed days due to poor health in Metro Atlanta is 13 days per school year. And ours is so low, it rounds out to 0. One of the key reasons is they're required to spend 1/2 of every day outside, come rain or come shine. It's the way we used to be when we spent a lot of time outside in school. So we're changing things in a lot of ways. And by the way, you do not have to go to Japan, except we call our button the smart button. And we're breaking ground Monday on our building around health with equal components of eat, action, and care. Care will have a medical doctor, a coach runs action, and of course we're the food folks. But it is going to have the Tesla batteries and the solar panels, and if the grid goes out, our restaurants and our doctor's offices will all be able to continue operating. And as long as we have sun in 48, 72 hours, we keep operating. So you can come right down to Serenbe, and we're seeing a lot of those things that are happening around the world. That's what innovation's about, asking why we have to keep doing it the old way. We can make a difference, and it takes people like Will and other people, and it's all going to come from the local area. You know, we're living in a society today where we're building those fences. And then we'd like to point our finger and suggest that all of our problems are our neighbors, whoever's over there. And what I found is when I sort of resigned to the fact I couldn't make a difference, and I retreated. And then I was interested in a selfish way of protecting my own backyard. And now today, by creating a model in my own backyard, we're affecting points of light around the world that I never expected. And we have places, 5 places in Europe, 3 in Australia, developments in Asia and South America, and almost every state west of the Mississippi. We have influenced the development either in power, water conservation, education, arts involvement, and the various ways. So the big message is continue to ask why. Don't expect somebody else to solve it. If you're not totally satisfied living in your big spaces and having less life, ask why and what could be done to make it different. And that's where innovation begins. And I'm sure Will never imagined that he could be an innovator. I never thought of myself as an innovator. I was just trying to do the right thing. And if we had more people willing to just say why and take care of their own backyard, guess what? All of our backyards touch. And for some, the backyard is growing fresh food out your back door for your family. For some, it's a city, like the effect that Lynn Minnie's had here. For some, it's the state. For a few, it's the nation. And for a very few, it's the world. But I define your backyard as that area where you can affect change. And if you can't affect change, why spend your energy complaining? Just come back and do something. So thanks, Will, for inviting me out. Keep asking why, keep doing great things, and enjoy this whole tiny house movement. It's to symbolize that we are really willing to do something different and more real. Thank you.